What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Homie Hangout, where we help others move in excellence. And Ted Cruz, Senator Ted Cruz from Texas, posted a video to his Twitter account either late last night or early this morning. It's very short. It's about the narco trafficking of people across the southern border. So I'm gonna play it real quick, and then we'll talk about it briefly.
These children come in debt to vicious cartels, thousands and thousands of dollars. And the teenage boys work for the gangs in every city in America. And the teenage girls experience a hell worse than that, with far too many of them human trafficked into sex slavery. Joe Biden and Kamala Harris are responsible for the worst plague of slavery in America since the Civil War. This is not compassionate. This is not humane. This is barbaric.
Yeah, so that's one way to look at it, right? That's one version. In reality, here's the situation. So under Trump, there was these Migrant Protection Protocols, right? MPP program that was started. And he campaigned on this stuff, right? It was the whole Stay in Mexico program, which said that, and it specifically applied to Spanish-speaking people or people from Spanish-speaking countries coming across the southern border into the United States, who did not otherwise already have some legal means, right? Like they didn't have papers. Mostly asylum seekers, right? And the asylum process is a little bit different than other immigration processes. And so, anyways, Trump came and said, we're going to stop that. So from now on, if you want to seek asylum in this country or you want some type of protection, you come, you check in at the border, but then we kick you back to Mex, and Mexico's going to look out for you, and you're going to stay there, and then you're going to do your immigration proceedings like in these tents by Zoom or whatever to talk to an immigration judge. Once your whole process is done, if it is determined that yes, you have a legitimate asylum claim, then you will be allowed into the country. This was supposed to stop this wave of migration at the border. This was supposed to stop all the asylum seekers. The ones who did come were just going to hang out in Mexico. Mexico was going to look after them. And it was going to be this orderly process, but there was going to be much less narcotics coming across the border. Gang members, absolutely not, right? Because we catch gang members. The trafficking of people into sex trafficking and all sort of stuff. It was over, right? It was going to be radically reduced by this policy. None of that has happened. In fact, quite the opposite has happened, right? That policy did not do anything it was sold as doing, which most people that saw it knew that that wasn't going to happen at the time. It did a lot for them politically, but it actually did nothing to solve or address anything. So Biden administration came in and said, we're going to do away with that, right? And that's not because Biden's some great guy, right? It's politics for him too, you know? So we're going to do away with that policy. And they did away with it, but they did so in a way that got challenged in court. And the court basically was like a technicality, right? Of, nah, you can make this decision, but you have to give notice here, blah, blah, blah. So it's going to expire. It's going to be pulled back very soon. And so that's why Cruz is making the video now, right? It's about politics. Of course, it's always about politics. And so that's why he's doing this. And the claims that he makes are actually not really supported by facts, right? Is there transnational sex trafficking? Of course there is, and it's sad. And one case is a case too many, right? Is that what is happening overwhelmingly? Of course not. The most common type of exploitation, if you want to call it that, is for purposes of work. It's a labor exploitation, right? But a lot of people coming, they get, people from El Salvador or whatever, they get coyotes, they get people to help them get to the point of the border. you know, then and some obviously, you know, to get across. But so this ties into the childhood arrivals, right? The unaccompanied minors. I mean, sorry, the unaccompanied minors. And the reason that there was this huge wave of unaccompanied minors was because MPP, the Migrant Protection Protocols, did not apply to minors, right? To unattended minors, to kids that did not have an adult with them. It didn't apply. So that's why folks would come through. They were youngsters. They get sent to group homes, this and that. I actually did a video, Making of a Killer, about a Mara dude. And so I'll link to that up there. You can check it out. And it kind of explains some of his process in coming over here, right? And what his experience was. So that's what this is. Now, don't get me wrong. The last president was trash. This president is trash. This vice president is horrendous in my opinion. And always has been. So this is not about me championing one political party or the other, right? But what has MPP really done, right? In what ways has it harmed? Well, for one, there's no legal representation, right? So you're not entitled to a lawyer when you go through immigration proceedings, right? The same way that you are if you go through criminal ones. However, there are tens of thousands of attorneys and organizations and colleges and everything else that provide legal assistance to those in immigration proceedings. Those groups are based in the United States. So when you come to the border and they're like, nah, fool, you got to go hang out in Mex, you don't have access to those organizations, right? And so whereas before, like 30 or 40% of people going through asylum claims did so with some type of legal counsel with them, right? Now under MPP, it dropped down to, I think, 5 or 8% of people had that, right? So that harms the process. What's the big deal with this asylum thing? And I'm not going to get largely into this stuff in this video, but if there are things that you guys want to know more about, leave a comment and I can touch on it in more detail. But the idea with asylum, prior U.S. law and even current U.S. law, just minus this program for the last couple of years, and international law is all consistent. If somebody is seeking asylum, they come here and they're like, hey, I need protection here from a natural or political or an environmental disaster that's happening at home. And I'm at extreme risk, blah, blah, blah. You know, there's standards, right? And I should be part of a protected group of people, right? And so if you can show that, just making that claim, you get to hang out here and make that argument, right? Which doesn't mean you have papers or anything else, but you get to stay here and make that argument. That doesn't mean you can't get deported, right? It's not like some get out of deportation free card, but you could stay here to make your claim and make your argument to the judge here. And if you're found to not have a valid claim, then you get shot back. And if you do have a claim, you get to stay, right? Making somebody wait in a different country before they get a chance to exercise their right to seek asylum, which it is a right. This is not a privilege. It's a right. Their right to seek asylum in your country, that's not how it works, right? You're putting a burden on Mexico, and it was always, oh, Mexico's with it. They're cool. They ain't tripping. Okay. Did you see how it's playing out over there? Right. And so it was a sham. It was always a sham. And now Cruz is, it's political season coming up, election season coming up. And so it's funny how all these political parties try to point to the last one and point to the next one in terms of like, man, they're the ones that messed this up. This is actually a situation that you cannot really put on the shoulders of Biden and Harris. They didn't have anything to do with it. You can go back and critique Obama, right, on this. And then obviously Trump for this particular program and his rhetoric in general. This is something that's not really on the shoulders of the current administration. And so it's a game, right? It's all a game. Cruz has been anti-immigration from Spanish-speaking countries specifically, anti-blue collar labor, right? Manual labor, immigration, his whole career, right? Since he worked on the George Bush campaign. and failed miserably there. But so, anyways, that's it. Help others move in excellence. That's what homies do. Help yourself at the same time because you're worth it, and help your community because they need you. Take care. There's lots of other content, a lot of stuff that's not quite in this same lane. But go check it out, and you guys have a good one.